George Orwell's 1984, and the more we get into it, the more we realize that a lot of these things that are talked about, they're not just these fantasies. They're not things that you just search for on the internet for light entertainment. These things are real. These things exist. They're not things that you just search for on the internet for light entertainment. These things are real. These things exist.
These things are absolutely 100% real. And through my research, the past 6 years, I've been researching probably about 4 hours every night, from around about 10 p.m. at night till 2 p.m. in the morning, every single day for the last 6 years on this. And not only doing the research, but actually getting out there during the daytime and walking the path of someone who is a free man and not a number who's subject to these fictitious laws and these governments who are basically stepping in front of common and natural law and assuming government over you. And I should point out that this is all by consent, so that all of these things, all of these agreements, are all done by consent.
I'm really glad you mentioned the fact that you are walking and living the life of a free man. So I wanted to really ask what you felt that was, and most importantly, how the rest of the Australian population can reach that status.
Right. Well, look, it does start with the birth certificate, obviously, because that's where the value was created. And to actually be able to change that status, unless you actually change it from birth, it takes a little bit of time to do. The very first things that you really have to address is all of the contracts that you've created in your life. And we create contracts all the time, whether they're written or verbal. For example, your driver's license,
credit card, yeah,
your credit card, all of these things, they're all contractual obligations, you see. So you actually have to you actually have to realize that you are the creditor. You're the principal operator here in this situation, and everyone else is subservient to you. As long as you do them no harm, then you're standing in common law. You see, so the straw man, let's take the straw man as being an agent in commerce for you. And so you have to treat it as something that you own, as valuable intellectual property that you own, and is basically the way that you're able to earn a living in this sort of manufactured world where there is no lawful money in circulation. We've only got this sort of this fake money going around, which is fiat. So you use the straw man to your advantage in that way, and you have to just learn how to talk. Basically, you just have to learn how to address these fictions and the agents that work for them, such as the policy enforcers, police.
You really feel. I love that, by the way. That policy enforcers. That's great.
But that's all they are. That's all that they are, and they don't like it. I often go up to these policy enforcers. Last week there was one in KFC, and he was standing there in the queue, and he looked very big and tough. And I walked up to him and said hello, and he suddenly became very stressed. What do you want? As if I was, he started kind of reaching for his gun like I was a criminal or something. So I said, well, hello. I noticed that you're wearing a badge that says police. I said, did you know that actually comes from the term policy enforcer, and that you're actually just enforcing or actually forcing the policy of like this private company on the people? And he all of a sudden started.
He would have loved that.
Oh no, he started to shake and go a little bit strange, and I said, so look, I was just wondering, do you mind if I have a look at the policy that you're forcing on us?
Yep.
And he quickly snatched his KFC off the counter, and he put his dark sunglasses on and goes, no, it's not viewable by the public. And he's trying to sort of get out the door, and I'm going, come on, give us a look, and he goes, no, and off he runs out the door, and the people who were standing around who had listened, it was a little bit like the scene in The Matrix when they saw the black cat. They were like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
There's this guy just standing in his complete power here, and this policeman's running away in fear and all of a sudden he's just been reduced to the status of like bookkeeper. But it's
with the police, right? What I want to ask is, I mean, the police obviously don't know about a lot of this information. I'd imagine that they're just doing their job. Would that be fair enough to say?
Yes, yeah, because the people in the lower rungs of all of these corporations and private companies, they're not taught this stuff. They're actually just given a protocol of the policy, and so you'll notice, when you deal with them, that they seem to come back with the same answers, even though you might ask them a different question. They've only got like a few answers that they can give. Yeah. And it's very strange, but I realized, from dealing with them that, okay, so you've got your protocol and those are the answers that you can give, because that's all they're authorized to do.
Just give those same stock standard answers.
Yes, yeah, and they don't know about this stuff. But once you start to get higher up in the echelon, once you get up to the higher up people, and certainly, I've got a document here which is a governor's manual for the notary public, and he actually explains in there how to create how a notary. For those of you who don't know what a notary is, it's a very powerful tool to be able to address people and witness documents. It's a little bit like a justice of the peace. And I use a notary all the time when I'm sending official documents out, because it's you get the little nice seal on it, and it's all very official looking, And it's a good way for the living to interface with the dead as well. But in this governor's manual, he's actually explaining how you create. He doesn't say the word strawman. He actually says UCC, and he's talking about the Uniform Commercial Code. He's actually explaining how you create a UCC signature, and he says that you do that by placing the person's name into boxes. Okay, so he actually is actually saying there that this is how you create a legal fiction out of a real flesh and blood living being.
Is by placing it around a box.
That's right, because you can't
inside a box.
Inside of the box. So usually, when out of a real flesh and blood living being.
Is by placing it around a box.
That's right, because you can't
inside a box.
Inside of the box. So usually, when people fill out their tax return, for example, and here's a really good example of this. When you fill out your tax return, you're supposed to put a name in all of those little tiny boxes, and the little boxes aren't joined together, and that's for a reason, because it's a code. And they're not asking you how much money that you earned. They're actually asking you how much the strawman earned. Okay, yes. Now how much money do you think that a fictitious legal entity can earn? I mean, it doesn't have any hands, or doesn't have any feet, or it can't breathe. So I'd like to see it go out and do a hard day's work. It'd be quite funny. So they're actually asking you how much the strawman made, and a lot of people think that it's applying to them. Now it's not, but it's actually your agent in fiction. So you have to you can't put 0 on your tax return, because it's going to get flagged. Yeah. But you have to pay. It's probably good that you pay the straw man. I mean, he's doing a job for you. You should give him at least $500 for the year to act as your agent in commerce. And I know that Mark Patelik does this, and he's I've seen his tax returns. He puts and he writes where it says job description. He writes agent in commerce, and puts down the $500 and pays no tax. And that's actually the legal way to do it, because that's exactly what they're asking you. I mean, if you were putting down your name, I mean, that would be equivalent to fraud.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. I mean, and that's, I mean, when it comes to this kind of towing between the line here, have you found that people have who haven't written these documents correctly, has there been many people that have got in trouble for this kind of thing, who have kind of tried to take the next step with all this but really don't know what they're doing? Have you had anyone?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I did it myself in the very beginning after I had done some research on it and thought that I knew a lot, but then started to write some documents and started to do it, and soon found, hang on, this didn't work. It actually had the opposite effect. Why was that? Yeah. So, you go back and you research again and you find, okay, I did this wrong, because I was actually arguing